You all know me. I'm not just a cop. I'm a father, I'm a son, and above all, I'm from Boston.
Boston accent. The politician with the upscale Kennedy-type Boston accent.
I am the mayor of Boston, and I was elected to clean up this town, but that doesn't mean I'm not gonna get my hands dirty.
The townie who says the word bro in every sentence.
Bro, don't tell me to chill out, because I'm cranked up, bro. And I know where you live, bro.
And one actor who decided at the last minute not to do a Boston accent at all.
I'm gonna go park the car in Harvard Yard.
Hello, divers. Welcome back to the Deep Dive Podcast, where each episode we strive to find something, good Lord, anything, to watch on streaming media. I'm Tom Feeney, writer for Wang's Chop Movie Magazine, and with me, as always, is my co-host, the magnificent Manda. Hello, Manda.
Hello. I love that Seth Meyers skit. That is so funny.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And there's one point where he pretends to be Benedict Cumberbatch, who's pretending to be an American.
Yes,
so
that's
funny.
right. That's right. So we are back. We took a little spring break for a couple of weeks. And it's, it seems as though, spring has finally kind of stabilized a little bit, which is nice. Being here in New England where we are, you never know one day from the next if it's going to snow or, or t-shirt and shorts weather. But I think it's, stabilizing a bit.
Oh, I think it was last week I think it was on a Tuesday we had 8-degree weather, and then on a Friday it was snowing, slushy. We had 3 inches of snow.
Yeah, it sounds about right. Awful. But I think we've turned a corner. I hope. So, but now it's been a while since we have discussed anything like Marvel television related. So, so last week there was the finale of what I guess was called The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but is now called Captain America and the Winter Soldier, which I don't think is fair, simply because
Agreed.
Bucky is not the Winter Soldier anymore.
Right.
And so it should just be Captain America and Bucky, like it was always meant to be.
I get why we're going with Captain America, and honestly, those folks who are getting very upset about it, I think it's just time to let it go and move on. But the whole Winter Soldier thing, it doesn't sit well with me either.
Yeah, I would even be happy with Captain America and the White Wolf, something like that. I mean,
yeah,
not Winter Soldier. That's not who he is anymore. He's made amends, cleaned up his act. It's like, okay, but it's time to, I agree, move on. But what a great show it was. I loved it. It was great seeing the surprise cameo from Julia Louis-Dreyfus. So, and now she's going to be, I think, heavily involved in the MCU from this point forward.
Nice.
There are rumors that she appears in the Black Widow movie. So we'll have to see about that, what kind of connection she may have there. And of course, not going away is the ex-Captain America, John Walker, who is now known as the U.S. agent. So that'll be interesting to see, how he returns as well.
Right.
Because he is a straight up psycho.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is I think it's a good transition from, the ending of season 2 of The Mandalorian and WandaVision. We needed something to kind of in the in between. I'm not saying it's super amazing, to be fair. I'm not really hardcore into it, but it did take me 2 or 3 episodes of WandaVision to kind of really get into it. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm just really excited for all the stuff that's coming up with Disney Plus, and I mean, not just the MCU. There's so much coming up.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, this is a good tide over, and so far it's not too bad.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So I'm I'm digging it. So that's good. Yeah. So also, I believe we I think I sent this to you. That's a statistic about that there are very few like actual active podcasts right now.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, there's like, it's like one thing that it's been on the internet for years, or what are called ghost sites, that are websites that have been abandoned, but for some reason are still there. And have never been like discontinued or removed. So, something from like 1998 that's just still lurking there, kind of like, unloved and just sort of an orphan website. Now, the same thing is happening with podcasts. People, are doing a few and then abandoning it, or just giving up on it, or not doing it anymore. And so there's all these ghost podcasts, streaming around, which is kind of weird if you think about it. It's like, driving downtown and seeing all the abandoned stores that are like,
oh God,
what happened here? Yeah. So it's kind of interesting that there's actually a very small percentage of podcasts that are still active and have like over a certain number of episodes. So I thought that was kind of interesting and makes me feel better about myself. Not to mention the fact that recently we just ranked number 5 in the film and review category in, you ready for this? South Korea.
Really?
We charted a couple of weeks ago. Number 5. It's pretty cool.
Okay.
Now, we promptly fell off that chart, but, we were there for a little bit.
Still, it's something to be proud of.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to have a little bit of validation. It's not much, but it's a little bit of validation, so I'm okay with that.
We'll take it and run with it.
Darn right. All right. So now, as we had mentioned previously, this podcast originates from the untamed wilds of New England. Now, so the way I have it figured out here, this is the way I think of it. Like Massachusetts is like the dad of New England. It's like New England's dad, right?
Yeah.
New Hampshire is the aunt who dresses too young for her age and gets drunk at outdoor music festivals. Vermont is the crazy uncle who you think might be a serial killer. And Connecticut is your snobby cousin who thinks he's better than everybody else. And Rhode Island is the nephew they keep locked in the basement. So that's how I kind of see it. I don't know, you may differ on your opinions, but that's just how I feel New England sort of like checks out.
I think you're dead on, or right on with the Connecticut one for sure.
Oh yeah. I always feel like when I drive through Connecticut, I'm underdressed. I don't know why, but it's just weird.
Wait, what did you say Maine was?
Oh, I didn't actually get to Maine because, frankly, Maine scares me, and I don't want to piss off Maine.
Well, you know what they call them? They call them maniacs.
Yeah, that's exactly. I think that's actually where the word comes from, but don't quote me on that. Yeah. So because of all this, I
was just saying, that's a perfect description of New England for sure. But because there's a theme going on, I think people can register by now.
Yes. So it seems fitting, I think, that you and I choose some interesting movies actually set in this remote wilderness tundra here. Oh dear, did you hear that? Ugh. That was a little scary. Anyway. So do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure, why not?
All right, go for it.
All right. So you know how you kind of split up the country, I think, into 3 main parts, right? You've got on one side, there's just California. There's nothing else but California and Hollywood.
Yeah, it's his own
In the middle, exactly. In the middle, you've got tornadoes, right?
Yes.
And then on the East Coast, the only part of the East Coast that really exists is New England. So that's kind of how I think. I think that's how like the rest of the country kind of like defines certain areas of the states. Because I mean, when you think of the East Coast, like do you automatically think, oh, cool, South Carolina? No, you think of like Boston and our foliage and all that fun stuff, right?
Yeah,
Salem.
or New York.
Anyway, that's a point. That's subjective. But in any case, what I love specifically about New England is all of our lore, right? All of our tall tales, our quote fish tales. And what's really great is that we have we have one that just no matter how many years go by and no matter how many I guess interpretations or even films that are made about this, it's still always the exact same thing, and that is the story of Moby Dick.
Ah, interesting. Yes.
So for those who are unaware, Moby Dick is, well, basically Herman Melville, right? This guy, he wrote a book about the whale ship Essex, so a ship that was meant for whaling, i.e. killing whales, not fun times, but, like harvesting their blubber for oil and whatnot, which was a big commercial entity way back when. So, sort of the inception of New England to maybe like 1800s kind of time, until we started hunting things to extinction, which unfortunately as humans we typically do. But Herman Melville, the author, wrote a book about the whale ship Essex who encountered what is supposedly a very large white sperm whale, otherwise known as Moby Dick, right? Given the name Moby Dick. Now, the film that I'm specifically referencing is the 1930 version. I think it was one of the first, if not the first, adaptation of this book, because this book came out, I think, in the 1850s or so. And of course, the movies didn't take too long to come after that, but 1930 seems quite early, so I imagine it's one of the first. In which the story is very minimal, right? Like, so this, I feel like with older versions, especially older black and white versions of stories, they do try to keep everything as basic as they can, because keep in mind, this is a silent movie, right? So like 1930s, we didn't necessarily have too many, what do they call them? Talkies?
Yeah, they started calling them talkies.
Talkies, yeah. So this is a black and white cast. They're on a ship. You have to imagine everything around you, like how the waves sound, how the ocean sounds. It's crazy. But essentially, after the whaleboat leaves New Bedford. New Bedford is a section on the coast of southern Massachusetts, which is, insanely famous for its whaling ships and fisheries and all that fun stuff. Leaves. Captain Ahab, who is not necessarily the nicest of guys, they come into conflict with Moby Dick. He loses his leg, which then becomes the typical stereotypical like pirate wooden leg thing. And people don't believe him at first, right? Because this is a giant white whale. Nobody believes him. But then, people keep saying, "Oh, we sighted him off the coast," and it became this like major. I have to go find this whale, which I think in turn was probably like the connotation behind Jaws, but we'll get into that. And so I don't want to spoil it, I guess, but the book has been out for like over 150 years. Basically, they kill him, right? So they get Moby Dick, they harpoon him, and I feel as though like it's kind of gross to say this, but the idea here is that man conquered the wild sea, right? Like the sea is a wild, untamable creature of its own. You know how like most of the times they give the ocean kind of like this female personification, like she's unruly, she's temperamental, anything like that. And I guess that gives a lot to, because you're not on flat land, you can't control it. But basically, this is a story of men overcoming this giant beast, this demon type thing. And so the whole story of Moby Dick really is Herman Melville exploring like stories and seafarer tales that he heard from sailors and whatnot, because I think it's pretty obvious that sailors and fishery type people, they always have their like skepticisms and superstitions and everything that plays into decisions that they make. Like even now, I'll watch like Deadliest Catch, and they'll talk about some superstition that they can't leave on a Tuesday, or whatever the case may be. But he put that all together in an amalgamation of those stories, and it became Moby Dick. Moby Dick is probably one of the most famous stories to come out of New England itself. I think I can't really think of another one other than maybe the Scarlet Letter that is so iconically New England. But this one, the 1930 film, is pretty cool because, like I said, it's in black and white, and you have to do a lot of imagining. You have to do a lot of like foreshadowing in it, because not only is it black and white, you can't hear anything, they're not speaking, you have to imagine what they're saying, all this fun stuff. But it's lovely. I think it's wonderful, and I know that it doesn't necessarily get the highest of scores and whatnot.
Yeah.
In fact, IMDb doesn't actually have a score for this particular one, because
Wow.
I imagine because it's so old. Yeah. But I found on certain other, I don't want to say not reputable, but things that we don't typically count towards. So
Right.
A-list movies and moviereviewers.com, that kind of thing. A lot of people they don't get it. And I think that's a shame, because I think black and white films, as I said before, offer a very special experience for the audience. So if you can get your hands on the 1930 version, which I found on YouTube in its entirety, or maybe missing a few minutes for copyright issues, I would say go ahead and watch it. It's not very long at all. It's only I think it's an hour and 10 minutes, something like that. It's it's totally worth watching. And it turns out that it was a pretty big box office hit way back in the 1930s, bringing in over $500,000, which is a lot of money in that time. Although it didn't necessarily get the greatest of responses from critics, who called it a, quote, poorly conceived and unfaithful version, in which Ahab slays the white whale at the end and goes home to his true love, which we know is not accurate. But, I'd say just watch it.
Yeah,
it's got John
absolutely.
Barrymore in it. Yeah, it's not
Very
bad. It's
cool.
John Barrymore. Yeah, places like that.
Nice.
So that's my first one.
Like it.
Truly New England. Thank you.
Very cool. Very cool. So did you know that there were several sequels to Moby Dick made into movies? Did you know this?
But I know that there are different adaptations, like one in the 1950s, I believe. And there was some silly one in 2010, I think, came out. But I didn't know if they were sequels or more like adaptations.
Well, I actually have the titles of some of the sequels right here. Let's see. We've got Moby Dick 2, Too Many Dicks. There's Moby Dick 3, Dick Harder.
Oh, no.
There's Moby Dick 4, The Dickening. And the last one, they really went off the rails, Dick-tective Moby. I don't, that one was just a cash grab, I think. But, what are you going to do?
I'm going to go ahead and say that you found these on a site that we wouldn't typically recommend to our listeners.
No, I just made those up. Anyway.
Okay. Okay,
even worse, I just made them up. Yeah. So.
Ugh.
All right.
We should copyright those.
We should actually. Ooh, there's a thought. So for my pick, way back, although not as far back as your pick went, in the early 1960s, and this is before even I was born, there was a string of murders occurring in the Boston area. 13 women were killed in a 2-year span by a man named Albert DeSalvo. Now, the media, as they like to do, gave him
the Strangler?
The Boston Strangler. They gave him a nickname.
Yeah.
And so my pick is the 1968 film called The Boston Strangler.
This is the story of the self-confessed Boston Strangler, based on Gerald Frank's startling bestseller. It has been filmed where the actual happenings made shocking headlines around the world.
I want you to coordinate the investigations for the Commonwealth. Set up a Strangler Bureau.
I'm not even remotely qualified for this kind of thing.
You want the stranglings to go on?
That's not fair.
As the suspense builds to an incredible crescendo, you realize that you are involved in one of the most remarkable screen experiences of our time. You will know all there is to know about the Boston Strangler.
Why did so many women open their doors willingly? The answers are not what you expected.
So once again, I picked something on the lighter side. Now, I'm not going to go into the gory details of the murders themselves because that's not why I picked this movie. For me, it's about the performances in the film and the direction of the film. And it's kind of half police procedural and then half of kind of looking into the mind of the killer himself. Now, DeSalvo is played by veteran actor Tony Curtis. and he's actually the father of Jamie Lee Curtis. So, yeah. And in this film, he's really going against the usual type of roles he had, which were kind of like more the handsome leading man type, doing light comedy. He was in movies like Some Like It Hot with Jack Lemmon, and then Operation Petticoat, and all those kind of movies. So he was pretty much known for being a leading man, and a comedian. But in this film, Tony Curtis plays DeSalvo like an unhinged man with multiple personalities, each one unaware of the other's existence. And these personalities come out under this intense interrogation by two detectives, played brilliantly by two great actors, Henry Fonda and George Kennedy, who you might remember from the Naked Gun movies. He was Leslie Nielsen's partner in the Naked Gun movies. So after 3 murders occur with the same modus operandi, Henry Fonda's character comes in. He is a civil lawyer who is assigned against his wishes to head a task force to track down this serial killer. And they're having the toughest time with it. They're getting really, really frustrated with their lack of progress. There are several leads that absolutely go nowhere. And the strangest thing about these murders to the investigators is that this killer was allowed in their homes by the female victims. There was no breaking and entering, no forced entry, but there was also no connection between the victims and the killer. And this really flummoxed the investigators. Now, Henry Fonda's character he's got to investigate every single lead because they've got nothing. So everything, even things that seem like they may not pan out, he's got to investigate thoroughly because he's got nothing. They even consulted a psychic, even though back in the 60s that was considered absolutely bonkers. Then nobody would be a psychic. What are you kidding me? Nowadays, you see it all the time in movies and TV shows. We got to get the psychic to help us out. But back then, that's how desperate they were. And in another kind of sign of the times in the 60s, one of the suspects that they have is a gay man. Because, hey, in the 1960s, if you were gay and there were any sexually related crimes happening nearby, you were automatically a suspect. And they treated that character terribly. Because they figured because he's gay, he must be some kind of deviant that's killing women. So,
right.
Go figure. Now, it's not until about halfway through the film that we actually meet the real killer. And from that point on, the movie kind of changes its tone and becomes this really, really intense thriller. And the last 20 minutes of it are just, an acting class, really, as DeSalvo, the Boston Strangler, faces an intense interrogation from Henry Fonda's character. And watching them play off each other is amazing. And it's just, for two people in a room just talking to each other, it is such an intense scene. It's wonderful. It really is. It's just a great, great performance from both. Now, as I said earlier, the direction is also excellent. And the director for this movie was a man named Richard Flesher. And he used the camera in a very claustrophobic way, and a lot of close-ups. And he also used multiple split screens to show different perspectives simultaneously of what was going on with the killer and the investigation and everything like that. So it was a unique way of telling a story back then. Nowadays, it's not as as unusual, but then it was a big deal, him going with that style. And Flesher, if you don't know the name, he had a real up and down directing career. He directed Fantastic Voyage, Soylent Green, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. But he also made some real stink burgers, like Amityville 3D, and a movie we talked about not long ago, $1 Million Mystery. Remember that one with the contest? Yeah. And quite possibly his worst film, is called The Jazz Singer, which was a remake of the classic, but this one starred Neil Diamond in his first and thankfully last leading role. Yeah. Cracklin' Rosie does not know how to act. So, yeah, there you go with that. But this is a great movie. As far as the scores go, Boston Strangler gets a 7.1 out of 10 on the Internet Movie Database and a really, really impressive 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I personally give it 4 out of 5 lobster rolls. So I know, right? That's a pretty good. That's a pretty good score. So you can find the Boston Strangler. You can rent it for $3.99 on iTunes, Amazon Prime Video, Vudu, and YouTube. So if you get the chance and you're looking for something really interesting, that's a little bit of a throwback. The Boston Strangler, really, really good movie.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very good. I mean, someone like you to go with a mass murderer or serial killer movie.
Yeah, I know, right? It's so against type.
I don't like lobster rolls. I haven't had one, but just looking at them makes me feel like not so great. But I will tell you, the best fish and chips I ever had in the States, at least, was in a little place called the Lobster Pool in Rockport, Massachusetts. Right on the water. They catch it right in front of you. They cook it. It's lovely. So
I'm glad you qualified that by saying in the States because you don't want to offend your husband.
Well, the truth is, I have had really nice fish and chips in England. I truly have.
Oh yeah.
I've had them in like the traditional wrapped newspaper, which really freaked me out because I thought I was going to get sick from the ink.
No.
From the ink. No. And then I've had it presented to me on a very fancy plate with mushy peas in a pub. Yeah. So I've had it. I've had it in different places, but I will tell you, if not for nothing else, we have some good food in New England. I think we're known for having some really good food. Like this afternoon, I had beach pizza for lunch. And
Beach
it was
pizza.
Lovely.
Where'd you get it?
Tripoli's,
of course. That's the best.
Like I drove down on my lunch, got Tripoli's, rushed back up here, had to eat my pizza on the way, but it was so worth it.
They also have really good cannoli. I'll tell you that right now. Cannoli's good.
Their bakery.
Got to get the cannoli. You know what I mean? Oh my God.
Cannoli. I'm so sad that they postponed the festival last year, obviously the Italian festival, because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
This year it's looking like they're probably going to do the same. But we'll see. But yeah, yeah. Anyways, if you haven't got it yet, listeners, we want you to come to New England. You need to experience the true pleasure and wonderment that is being in New England. And I would say there are 3 things you have to do. You have to try beach pizza at a beach, either Hampton, Salisbury, or Crane.
Yep.
You have to eat some sort of fishy substance like a fish sandwich, fish and chips, lobster, any of that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to visit us in the fall so you can see our foliage and you can come to Salem, Massachusetts.
Absolutely.
It's just 3 things you have to do.
3 things you have to do. Absolutely. I agree 100%. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And then go to New Hampshire for tax-free shopping.
Tax-free, exactly. I mean, honestly, it's just 2 miles over the border, and you can get like so much cheaper. But
wink,
whatever.
Yeah.
Wink, wink. All right. So my second and last film before my honorable mentions is a little bit of a strain, right? Or because it doesn't necessarily take place in New England, but it involves Massachusetts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it involves basically the area of the East Coast or the northeast of the country that is very infamous for being old, for being colonial, for being the start of the nation, that kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
My film is 1989's Glory.
For the men of the 54th, it was time to make history.
Someday they're gonna let the 54th get into it.
For the sergeant,
Time's coming when we're gonna have to ante up and kick in like men.
it was time to follow his destiny. For a rebellious young soldier,
I ain't fighting this war for you, sir.
it was time to reach for glory. Denzel Washington, Golden Globe winner.
Come on!
Morgan Freeman, Glory. Rated R. Now playing at a theater near you.
Starring Matthew Broderick and Denzel Washington, Morgan Freeman, Carrie Hughes. Oh, love Carrie Hughes. If you haven't seen Princess and the Bride, there's no help for you.
As you wish.
But this one in particular is a film regarding the 54th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment, which was made up of all previously enslaved but now free African Americans. And first of all, if Denzel is in this plus Morgan Freeman, you know it has to be good, right?
Yeah.
Just because Denzel, okay, that's all you need to say.
Yeah, Denzel.
But also Morgan Freeman, Matthew Broderick, I'm like, whatever. But so
Ferris Bueller, come on.
I've never seen Ferris Bueller.
Oh my God, you're canceled. I'm sorry.
I'm the cancel concert. No, but I'm telling you, I haven't seen it, and I think I haven't seen it because people have told me I have to see it. And I'm one of those stubborn people that just I'll watch it. And knowing me, I'll watch it some random day on a TV station and be like, oh, why haven't I seen this sooner? But whatever. So during the Civil War, the American Civil War, I should say, as you know, it was, or hopefully as you know, it was really pitting the North, or the Union Army, who did not believe in slavery, although they didn't necessarily have the greatest working conditions for either white or black people, especially if you were poor, and who were very industrialized, versus the South, or the Confederate Army, who still hung on to their slave labor, who were major manufacturers of cotton exports, tobacco exports, things that were becoming increasingly mass-produced in other places of the country, specifically like Ohio, for example, which was part of the Union. And this movie kind of takes place all around, or sort of around, this major battle, as it were, down in, I believe it was South Carolina, I believe. Basically, the Battle of Fort Wagner. So, quick little breakdown. You have to watch it. It's a very long movie. I think it's like 2.5 hours long, or 2 hours long. This is around the time President Abraham Lincoln has given out the Emancipation Proclamation, right? The Confederacy is like, no, we don't want you as a president, so we're not going to at all accept you. If you are a black man and you are a soldier, you will be returned to slavery. If you are a black soldier in a Union uniform, they're gonna smoke you out. They're gonna end you right there, right? So the men who were promised initially to fight for the South, who could possibly gain their freedom, were like, yeah, we're not doing that. A lot of them go AWOL. Denzel Washington's character actually does go AWOL. He's a private in the regiment here, and it's through people like Matthew Broderick's character, who he's Robert Gould Shaw. He's actually, by the way, this is based on true story and real people, and it's just about how, I want to put this as easily as I can, but how the suffering and the racism and the overall struggle, even within a Massachusetts regiment, part of the quote Union, part of the free peoples, had to face so many setbacks, and yet they really emerged as heroes of this particular battle, as it were. So I love this movie for a couple of different reasons. One, I'm a history major, and I love historical movies. I love when they're really tied to events, although I understand that there has to be some creative license. But when they get a lot of it right, that's when I kind of go in for the the hardcore admiration of it. But also, I don't know any movie that has music from James Horner that I don't like.
Yes.
James Horner is probably one. He's right up there next to. I mean, I can't even think of the guy's name. The German guy. I can't even think of his name. Robert Ziegler. I don't know. I'm trying to think of. He did the Gladiator soundtrack too.
James. Yeah.
You don't try to say, right?
Hans Zimmer. Is that it?
Hans Zimmer.
Yeah. There
you go. In any case, so this movie is heavy. It's got lots of bloody, battles in it. It shows just the discrepancies and the disparity between a black and a white soldier, especially a black soldier in the Union Army. It's kind of like saying, hey, don't think that everything was really great for African Americans just because they were in the North. They still faced so many hardships and difficulty. There was still so much prejudice, even in the North, where they claimed to be, quote, tolerant. Yeah, you know, and so it exposes, I should say, a lot of the not fairness, right? And then the inadequacies and the 2-for-1 scenarios, and just not a great time. But like I said, they emerge heroes of this battle, and Denzel Washington is great in it. Morgan Freeman is wonderful in it. It actually gets really highly rated. I think on IMDb it gives a 7.8, right? And that's got like 150,000 votes. Metacritic is a 78. Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 93 pressure meter. Yeah. So that's the tomato meter itself.
Jeez.
And then a 93 from the audience score. So people love this movie. And I think it has a lot to do with because we're coming off the era of Dances with Wolves and all these long, Last of the Mohicans, these long epic dramas, right, that have to deal with historical context. I think there's a time and a place where people just love these things. And you'll notice, like, when movies come out of that drama, you know, shortly thereafter, we've got a couple in a row that are like, oh, cool, this is another historical drama. Because, you know, movies happen in waves, I think. And people like what they like, and so movie theaters and production companies and directors will try and go after what is hot right now. And in that case, around this time, the historical drama was huge. But it's funny because I wasn't actually planning on doing this one, but I mentioned to you earlier before we started the podcast that I had received a trial subscription of Starz.
Yeah. Like,
for whatever reason, they just upped it, and I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to complain. And it's on Starz, and I was like, you know, I'll give it another chance to watch it. I watched this in high school years ago, and I don't want to say how many. But it's a really good film, and I encourage anybody to watch it and to watch it with an open mind, right? You can watch it right now for free on Starz. If you have a subscription, you can rent it on Amazon, Vudu, Google, the usual places for around the usual same $2 or $3. If you can find it for purchase, I would say go right ahead and do it. Like, I think it's worth having in your arsenal. It's like, for me, it's next to, like I said, Dances with Wolves, and it's in the category of like long movies that I can get lost in, like Braveheart.
Nice. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like it.
Anyways, I'd say check it out. It's a good movie. And it's my second pick before I have some honorable mentions.
Nice. You know, and it's a really good thing nobody still holds on to those Civil War grudges now, huh? Yeah. Anyway, my next pick, let's just make a segue here, is also based on a true story, but it's not about the Civil War. It's about a civil action. I don't know if you're familiar with this. So in the town, a civil action. Yeah. In the town of Woburn, Massachusetts, or as they say, Woburn. During the 1980s, a number of residents of the area were being stricken with cancer, leukemia, and other illnesses at a greater rate than what was considered normal. Yeah, it's what's called a cancer cluster. And it's what it is it's basically an unusually high group of incidents of cancer. Now, the blame for this cancer cluster fell on a local tannery, which is a place that treats the skins of animals to make leather. This particular tannery was owned through a long ladder of subsidiaries by megacorporation Beatrice Foods.
For justice.
This is a good case. 12 deaths over 15 years. They think it has to do with the city's drinking water.
One lawyer will discover.
Somewhere out here, somebody had to have seen what happened.
The only thing more dangerous than burying the truth.
There's a lot of people in my neighborhood that are dead from something.
Is uncovering it.
You go back out there and you catch them in a lie.
We're 3 lawyers. They're 300.
We can't afford a long, drawn-out trial.
You mortgaged my house.
I have.
From the #1 electrifying bestseller.
If you're gonna knock a guy down, do it so he can't get up.
What I wanted was an apology for what they did to my son.
It's war.
John Travolta, Robert Duvall, John Lithgow, William H. Macy, and Kathleen Quinlan.
This isn't about money anymore.
What's it about, Jan?
It's about this.
A civil action.
Now, the townspeople of Wubin sued the company for dumping chemicals, including an industrial solvent called trichloroethylene, into the groundwater. Now, trichloroethylene is a known carcinogen. The film follows the court case against the company and focuses on attorney Jan Schlickman, who was played by John Travolta, and the lawyers that work for him. Now, initially, Jan refuses to take the case, but he changes his mind when he sees the potential in the publicity that taking the case would bring his small law firm. Now, while investigating the company and the impact the illnesses have on the community, he gets invested personally, and it begins to become an obsession with him. Now, it's going to ruin his firm if he loses, which is a distinct possibility given the army of lawyers the defendant brings to the case. So this is basically a David and Goliath story. Now, I will tell you, I am a sucker for a good legal drama. In fact, I actually once entertained the idea of becoming a lawyer, but then someone told me I had to go to law school, and that pretty much ended that.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. But there is something really riveting about watching smart people playing this kind of legal chess match when there's so much at stake. And because a civil action is a true story, a happy ending is in no way guaranteed here. So I'm not going to spoil it for you in case you want to see it, but yeah, it's got its dark side because of what's going on with the townspeople and how desperate they are for help. But it's a great movie. And there's a lot of talent here too. The cast is spectacular, and aside from Travolta, who's really good in this, Robert Duvall, John Lithgow, James Gandolfini, Tony Shalhoub, they're all in this, and they're all fantastic. The movie itself was written and directed by a guy named Steven Zalian. And if that name, once again, doesn't ring a bell, some of his other screenplays might. Gangs of New York, Moneyball, The Irishman, Schindler's List. So, yeah, and so this was, I think, the first film he actually directed. It's really, really good. It's well made, well acted. I know that some people are like, legal drama, yawn, but no. This will keep your attention focused on the story of this community that is literally fighting for its life against an impossibly powerful adversary. And it's also, a good movie to remind us why we have Earth Day. And so it's even though Earth Day has passed, it's still a good kind of a reminder why we need that and why we need regulations when it comes to these corporations that can, literally, cost people their lives if they're careless or just, ignorant. So that's my second pick, a civil action, and it gets a 6.6 out of 10 on the Internet Movie Database and 61% on Rotten Tomatoes. But it's available on all the usual suspects, iTunes, Amazon Prime, all those. It's really, really good. I highly recommend you check out A Civil Action. It's not the most uplifting film you'll ever see, but it's really, really well made.
Nice.
And once again, 4 out of 5 lobster rolls. Thank you.
You think it was a precursor to, when did it come out?
1998.
Oh, okay, so it's post-Silkwood then.
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. Is it post-Aaron Brockovich?
Yeah, I think it might be.
No, I
Maybe.
think it actually came out before, yeah. But I love those films where, like, it's the young person or, like, the single person fighting up against this corporation. Like, remember in Silkwood when I thought that she was really going to kill her? Or, spoiler, but, whatever. But yeah, good choice.
Yeah, what I liked about it was the lawyer, John Travolta's lawyer. He's not in this in the beginning for altruistic reasons. He thinks this is going to help build his law firm by being a very public case and by building his reputation. And but then he gets personally invested. And I'm not giving anything away to say that Jan Schlickman went on to become a well-regarded environmental lawyer. So
right.
But yeah, it's a really, really good one.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I've got a couple of honorable mentions that I think that folks should take a look at.
Mm-hmm.
So first one would be The Miracle Worker, 1962 film.
Yeah.
Stars Anne Bancroft. I personally watched that film when I was much younger. I didn't understand what was going on, and it frightened the heck out of me.
Yeah, I can understand that.
But it's definitely it's a good one to watch. Then I might say take a look at The Firm if you're at all interested in that. And then Little Women. And I love the fact that Little Women has been sustained throughout all these years. But of course, Louisa May Alcott, who wrote it, lived in Concord, Massachusetts. I think she's buried somewhere in there. Actually, she is. She's in the writer's corner of the Lexington Cemetery. And I love Little Women. I love the Winona Ryder version. God, it's been a long weekend until like Tuesday. But yeah, I love that one. I just absolutely love that movie.
Nice.
So those are my honorable mentions.
For me, I'd have to go with Good Will Hunting. Which is a fantastic movie, which I think most people have seen, but it's well worth checking out again. If not for just remembering just how great Robin Williams was. Amazing actor. You've got the probably the most prestigious of the bunch, the two Ted movies.
Oh, jeez. I can't even get through the first one.
Yeah, and finally, another actually legal drama, which is called The Paper Chase, which is a 70s movie about law students and going through law school with an especially strict law professor. So, and how some of them can't handle the pressure and all that. So The Paper Chase is another good one that's available. But yeah, so those are some of my my honorable mentions, Your Honor.
You can't also forget Lake Placid.
Oh, Lake Placid. Isn't that New York?
Kinda, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's we'll give it a pass. We'll give it a pass.
We'll give it a pass, yeah.
All right.
But not a bad episode, huh?
No. I think it was quite good, yeah, and I'm glad nobody did any JFK movies. So there you go.
Yeah. I thought about it, but I just can't. It's too muddy.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And that's a rabbit hole you don't want to get sucked into. All right, so I think that's going to do it for this episode. Now, next dive, we're going to do another microcast, and May 1st is May Day, of course, which is a celebration of spring's arrival. But what you may not know, it is also Free Comic Book Day. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is.
Where your friendly neighborhood comic book purveyor gives out special comics produced just for that day. Now, there was a time long ago when comic books were nearly banned forever. On the next Deep Dive Microcast, we'll dive into the case against comic books. So look out for that. I think that'll be fun. It's a good little history lesson.
Can you imagine not having comic books? That just seems like a world I don't want to live in.
Yeah, can you imagine there'd be no MCU? There'd be no DC. Well, that's fine. But oh, sorry. I sat through the Snyder Cut. I mean, I did. So I've done my due diligence.
Yeah, I did. I think it was 45 minutes into it, and I was like, yeah, I'm over this.
Yeah.
But, whatever. But we should also mention too that we'll have a small break coming up.
Yeah, we're going to have a little bit of another gap. We'll have there'll be a couple of short, little brief episodes. A couple of microcasts, maybe one of those little deep dive mysteries, which I kind of enjoy. So we'll see if we can work one of those in there as well. Might be fun.
Yeah, and then we'll ramp up and get ready for our giant summer episodes.
Oh, I cannot
wait. If you are not familiar, or if you're just tuning in for the first time, you can catch all of our previous summer blockbuster episodes on our website, thedeepdivepodcast.com, where we host all of our old episodes, minus the first one because we don't talk about that.
Shh, no, we don't talk about that.
We also have a merch store if you want to go ahead and fashion yourself with a lovely piece of t-shirt material, and look super cool while doing it. And they're not expensive. They feel okay. You know, you can at least use them once or twice and then wash your car off. Summer's coming up.
Yeah, and guaranteed to cover your naughty bits.
Okay.
Sort of.
Yeah. Or you can email us too. Our website has all of our links to our social medias and our email if you ever want to send in some suggestions, or if you just want to give us general feedback. We love all the feedback, just only the nice stuff.
Exactly.
But the best way to help us out truly is to rate us on Apple iTunes, because the more ratings we get, the more people we can give our gift to. And don't you want to share this gift with the world?
The gift of us.
Yes.
The gift that keeps on giving something. I don't know what, but you better get some antibiotics. So now, before we wrap things up, there's a final thing I want to talk about, and it's on a serious note. Every episode, I reference a little publication that I contribute to called Wang's Chop. It's a really great magazine about all kinds of movie-related weirdness. The co-owner and publisher is a longtime friend of mine. His name is Tony Strauss. Right now, Tony is battling a rare type of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. On the Deep Dive Podcast website, I will be posting a link to a GoFundMe page to help with Tony's medical expenses. I've known Tony for 30 years. He's a wonderful guy, and I just wanted to put that out there, just so because I wanted to do something like that for him.
Absolutely.
So
if you can give. If you can't, share it for us. Share our website. It would really help us out.
Exactly.
Also, check out Wagner's Chop, because they have a lot of funny stuff in there.
Yes, and we're actually just about hitting our deadline for submission. So hopefully that means that we're going to be having another issue out soon.
Woohoo!
I know, right? All right, so that'll do it for us. For Manda and myself, Tom Feeney. Please stay safe. Be good. Remember, swallowing sunflower seeds will not make sunflowers grow in your stomach, I think. Okay, I'm not sure about that one.
So as far as we know.
As far as we know. All right, we will see you next time. All clips used in the Deep Dive podcast are meant for educational purposes only, and not to infringe on existing copyrights. The Deep Dive theme was composed and performed by Ryan Blaney and produced by EchoCraft. The Deep Dive podcast is a production of Automaton Studios.
Say it loud enough so everyone can hear. Come on, say it.
Chowder.
Ha ha ha! Ha ha ha! Chowder!